The hum is the first thing you notice. A low, constant thrum that vibrates not just in your ears, but in your bones. It's the sound of life support, of generators churning, of 1,000 unseen machines breathing for us, keeping us alive in the belly of the earth. Above, the world might be burning, skies raining ash, but down here, in the heart of the bunker, the air is recycled, filtered, sterile. The fluorescent lights flicker, casting long, pale shadows that dance with the dust motes suspended in the artificial air, a silent ballet performed for an audience of ghosts. We are waiting. Waiting for a war that has already begun, waiting for the signal that may never come, waiting to inherit a world that may no longer exist. The weight of the concrete is immense, a suffocating blanket that presses down on you, reminding you of the futility of escape. The walls are cold, damp to the touch, seeping with the earth's secrets. Each corridor stretches endlessly, a labyrinth of identical doors and flickering lights, each turn leading to another identical turn. It's easy to get lost, to lose yourself in the monotony, to forget the world that once was, the sun on your skin, the wind in your hair. The only landmarks are the faded signs, cryptic messages in a language that speaks of imminent destruction and the desperate hope of survival. Decontamination chamber, armory, cryogenic storage, words that paint a grim picture of the future we are meant to rebuild. I stand in the observation room, staring at the bank of monitors. Each screen displays a different view of the outside world, or what's left of it. Static crackles across the screens, punctuated by fleeting images of desolation. A skeletal cityscape silhouetted against a blood-red sky. A lone figure wandering through a wasteland, their face obscured by a gas mask. A field of twisted metal, the remnants of a battle long since fought and lost. These images are our reality now, the only connection we have to the world above. They are a constant reminder of what we are fighting for, what we have already lost. The silence in the room is deafening, broken only by the hum of the machines and the frantic beating of my own heart. I am a ghost in a machine, a sentinel guarding a tomb. He called me Sparrow, said I was small, quick, and always flitting about, said I had a song in my heart even when the world was trying to silence it. He was my grandfather, a man carved from granite and softened by love. He built this bunker, brick by painstaking brick, long before the world started to crumble. He saw the storm coming, the darkness gathering on the horizon. He prepared for it, not with fear, but with a quiet determination, a fierce love for his family, for the future he hoped we would inherit. He taught me how to survive, how to forage, how to fight. He taught me the names of the stars and the songs of the birds. He filled my head with stories of heroes and villains, of love and loss, of hope and despair. He made me believe that even in the darkest of times, there was always something worth fighting for. I remember the day he showed me the plans. I was just a girl, barely old enough to understand the weight of his words. He spread the blueprints across the kitchen table, the lines and symbols a foreign language to my young eyes. He traced his finger along the intricate design, explaining each room, each function, each safeguard. He spoke of the importance of preserving knowledge, of rebuilding society, of ensuring that humanity would not be extinguished. His voice was calm, steady, but I could see the worry etched on his face. He knew the odds were stacked against us, that survival was not guaranteed. But he refused to give up hope. He believed in the resilience of the human spirit, in our ability to overcome any obstacle. He taught me how to play chess in this very room. The board was old, the pieces worn smooth with age, but the game was timeless. He would sit across from me, his eyes twinkling with amusement, patiently explaining each move, each strategy. He never let me win, not at first. He wanted me to learn, to understand the consequences of my actions. He taught me to think ahead, to anticipate my opponent's moves, to never underestimate the power of a well-calculated sacrifice. He said that chess was a metaphor for life, that every decision had a ripple effect, that even the smallest pawn could change the course of the game. And then, as I began to understand, he started letting me win, just enough to keep me interested, to fuel my ambition. The last time I saw him, he was weak, ravaged by the illness that swept through the world above. He lay in the infirmary, his breathing shallow and labored. He reached out and took my hand, his grip surprisingly strong. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of love and regret. He told me that I was ready, that I had the strength and the courage to lead. He told me to never forget the lessons he had taught me, to always remember the importance of hope and resilience. He told me to protect the others, to keep them safe, to never give up on the future. And then he closed his eyes and slipped away, leaving me alone in the darkness, with the weight of the world on my shoulders. The klaxon ripped through the bunker, not a mechanical scream this time, but a raw, guttural roar that vibrated in my teeth. It was the attack warning, not a drill. This was it. Sergeant Miller's face, usually a roadmap of stoic indifference, was etched with something akin to fear. He barked orders, but his voice wavered. We scrambled to our stations, the practiced routine now a frantic dance. I strapped myself into the targeting chair, the cold metal biting into my skin. My hands trembled so violently I could barely align the reticle. The screens flickered to life, displaying a grainy, distorted image of the outside world. A world that was about to cease to exist. I saw the first flash, a blinding white light that swallowed the camera whole. Then, nothing. Just static. The bunker groaned, a low, mournful sound as the shockwave hit. Dust rained down from the ceiling. Silence. An unbearable silence. The only sound was the ragged breathing of the crew, each of us waiting, praying for something, anything to happen. Then the aftershocks began. Small at first, like tremors, then growing in intensity, shaking the bunker like a child's toy. The lights flickered and died, plunging us into darkness, punctuated only by the red glow of the emergency lamps. I remember thinking, irrationally, about my mother. About the last time I spoke to her, a hurried phone call before I shipped out. I hadn't told her where I was going, just some vague excuse about a training exercise. I wondered if she knew, if she felt it, if she was even still alive. Then the screaming started, not from the outside, but from within. Private Davis, a kid barely out of high school, lost it. He clawed at his face, his eyes wide with terror, babbling about hellfire and damnation. Miller tried to calm him, but it was no use. Davis was gone, lost in the abyss of his own fear. We were trapped, buried alive in our concrete tomb. The world above was gone, reduced to ash and rubble. And we were the lucky ones. Or so we thought. The bunker became a microcosm of the world it was supposed to protect. A place of dwindling resources, simmering tensions, and gnawing despair. The canned food tasted like dust, the water like metal. We rationed everything, but it wasn't enough. The air grew stale, thick with the smell of sweat and fear. Days bled into weeks, weeks into months. We lost track of time. The outside world became a distant memory, a faded photograph in our minds. The only reality was the bunker, the claustrophobic walls, the flickering lights, the faces of my fellow prisoners. The constant threat of radiation poisoning hung over us like a shroud. We wore dosimeters, monitoring our exposure, but the numbers kept creeping up. We knew it was only a matter of time before the inevitable. One day, Miller announced that he was going to attempt to reach the surface. He said there might be other bunkers, other survivors. He said we had to try. I volunteered to go with him. I didn't want to die in that tomb. I wanted to see the sky, even if it was a poison sky. We donned radiation suits and ventured out into the wasteland. The air was thick and acrid, the ground covered in a layer of gray ash. The sun was a pale, sickly disk in the sky. It was a world devoid of life, a monument to our folly. We walked for days, searching for any sign of civilization. We found nothing. Only ruins. Only death. Miller started to cough, a deep, hacking cough that rattled his chest. His face was pale and gaunt. The radiation was getting to him. One evening, as we huddled around a small fire, he told me the truth. He knew the mission was suicide. He knew there was no hope. He just wanted to give us something to do, something to believe in. He wanted to die with dignity. He died the next morning, his body ravaged by radiation sickness. I buried him in the ash, marking his grave with a piece of twisted metal. Then I turned around and walked back to the bunker, back to the tomb. Now, decades later, I still see the flashes in my dreams, feel the earth shake, hear the screams. The bunker is gone, of course, decommissioned, filled with concrete, a monument to a war that no one won. But the memories remain, etched into my soul like scars. The nightmares come and go, but the silence is constant, a silence that echoes the emptiness inside me. I try to fill it with noise, with music, with conversation, but it's no use. The silence always returns. I see a therapist. She tells me I have PTSD, that I need to process my trauma. But how do you process the end of the world? How do you make sense of something so senseless? I've tried to build a life, a normal life. I have a job, a small apartment, a few friends. But I can never truly connect with anyone. There's always a wall between us, a wall built of ash and fear. They can't understand. They weren't there. Sometimes I find myself drawn to places of isolation, deserts, mountains, abandoned buildings, places where I can feel the silence, where I can be alone with my thoughts. It's not that I enjoy the solitude, it's just that I don't know how to be any other way. I often wonder what it would be like to forget, to erase the memories, to start over. But I can't. The past is a part of me, woven into the fabric of my being. It's a burden I must carry, a price I must pay. I look at the younger generation, at their optimism, their hope for the future. I envy them, but I also fear for them. They don't know what's coming. They don't know what we are capable of. The world hasn't learned. We're still building bombs, still stockpiling weapons, still teetering on the brink of annihilation. Sometimes I think we're doomed to repeat our mistakes, that one day the klaxon will sound again, and this time there will be no bunker. The klaxon horn, silent for decades, screams, a raw metallic shriek that tears through the bunker's artificial calm, shattering the fragile peace we had constructed. Not a drill, not a test. This is it. Outside, the world is burning. We see it on the monitors, the feeds flickering with the crimson bloom of nuclear fire. Cities vaporize in blinding flashes, landmarks reduced to ghosts in the blink of an eye. The earth trembles, even here, deep beneath the bedrock. A low, guttural rumble that resonates in our bones, a constant reminder of the apocalypse unfolding above. Sergeant Major Reyes, his face etched with a grim resolve, barks orders. Not panicked shouts, but the steady, measured commands of a man who has trained for this his entire life. Checklists are consulted, systems activated, protocols initiated. The bunker seals itself, a final desperate act of self-preservation. We are entombed. Days blur into weeks. Time loses all meaning within the bunker's sterile embrace. We exist in a perpetual twilight, sustained by recycled air and processed food. The monitors show only static now, the outside world consumed by radiation and chaos. We are the last echo of a dying civilization, trapped in a steel coffin, waiting. Then the dreams begin. Vivid, unsettling visions that claw at the edges of my sanity. I see faces of people I knew, people I loved.
their expressions twisted in silent screams. I walk through ruined cities, choked with ash and the skeletal remains of buildings. I feel the heat of the fire, the sting of radiation on my skin. And then I see her, Sarah, her eyes wide with terror, searching for me in the inferno. I wake up screaming, drenched in sweat, my heart pounding in my chest. The others look at me with a mixture of pity and fear. They are having the same dreams. We are all haunted by the ghosts of the world we lost. One day, the sergeant major calls us to the main monitor. There is a signal. Faint, distorted, but undeniably a signal. A human voice crackling through the static. "Survivors, anyone, can you hear me?" Hope flickers, a fragile ember in the darkness. We respond, our voices trembling with emotion. We give our location, our mission, our desperate plea for contact. The voice on the other end is weak, fading in and out, but we hear enough. There are others. Scattered pockets of survivors clinging to life in the ruins of the world. But then comes the revelation, the truth that shatters the last vestiges of our illusion. The voice tells us of the long winter, the poisoned earth, the mutations, the horrors that roam the surface. And then the chilling words. There is nothing left to save. You were not meant to rebuild. You were meant to be a deterrent. The bunker was not a sanctuary. It was a tomb, a false promise, designed to ensure that no one would be left to challenge the victors. A cold calculation in a game of nuclear chess. The sergeant major stares at the blank screen, his face a mask of disbelief. The years of training, the unwavering faith in the mission, all for nothing. He turns to us, his eyes filled with a profound sadness. "We were wrong," he says, his voice barely a whisper. We are silent, stunned by the weight of the truth. The air in the bunker feels thick, suffocating. We are not heroes. We are not saviors. We are prisoners, condemned to live out our days in this underground cage, knowing that our sacrifice was meaningless. But even in the face of despair, something stirs within me. A spark of defiance, a refusal to surrender. We may be trapped, but we are not broken. We are still human. We still have each other. I look at the faces of my comrades, their eyes filled with fear and uncertainty. But I also see resilience, a flicker of hope that refuses to be extinguished. We have survived this long. We have endured the unimaginable. And we will continue to endure, even if it is only for each other. I take a deep breath, and I speak. We may not have saved the world, I say, my voice trembling but firm. But we can save each other. We can create our own world, right here, right now. We can learn from the mistakes of the past. We can build a better future, even in this darkness. My words resonate in the silence. A slow nod from the sergeant major, a tear rolling down the cheek of a young soldier. A shared understanding, a collective decision to choose life, even in the face of death. The bunker is still a tomb, but it is also a womb, a place of rebirth where we can forge a new identity, a new purpose. We may be the last of humanity, but we are not the end. We are the beginning. We will wait, we will learn, and when the time comes, we will emerge from the darkness, not as soldiers, but as survivors. We will carry the memory of the old world, but we will build a new one, a world founded on compassion, understanding, and a fierce determination to never repeat the mistakes of the past. This bunker, our prison, will become our ark, carrying us towards a future we can barely imagine, but one we will fight for, together.